The views and content expressed on the following program are provided solely for informational and entertainment purposes. They do not constitute legal advice. A podcast is not a substitute for retaining a competent, licensed attorney to advise you on your specific legal situation.
Break the business, play is work and work is play. Power into creators, have fun along the way. Break the business, doing what it takes. Celebrate success and learn from the mistakes.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the show. It is time for Break the Business, where we empower indie creators and have some fun along the way. I'm Ryan Kairalla, and it is a pleasure to have you here this week. I'm feeling fine on Cloud 9 this week, viewers and listeners. I got a lot to smile about. First thing of which that's got me smiling is I get to be one of my favorite personalities lately, which is insufferable sports fan Ryan, because boy, has sports given me a lot to be insufferable about. As we record this, the night before we recorded this, my Florida Panthers made it to the Stanley Cup Finals yet again for the third straight year. And look, as a Floridian who lives in a place where it does not snow, and growing up, the only hockey I ever experienced was wearing out the VHS of D2 The Mighty Ducks that I had in my house. I have no business having a good hockey team. What do I know about hockey? I know that when we score more goals than the other team, that's a good thing. But like when I see a guy get knocked over on the ice and that's not a penalty and I can't tell you why, that's because I don't know anything about hockey. And because like I really kind of still don't know how offsides works, that's me not knowing about hockey. But I'm going to pretend and I'm going to fake it like most Floridians do, because we got a team in the Stanley Cup final and I'm pretty excited about it. It's going to be a pretty fun couple weeks. I am smiling about that. You know what else has got me smiling this week, viewers and listeners? The guest we have. I am so thrilled, tickled pink to be welcoming back Kat Henry, the executive director of Live Music Society. The real fans of this show join me in our affection and appreciation for all things Kat Henry. We've had her on the show before, and she's given us a lot to smile about. She is the executive director of Live Music Society. This is an amazing organization. They do a lot of great work providing grants to support small venues, which is a constituency that we definitely want to help around here at Break the Business. And last time we had her on about a year and a half ago, we talked all about that great work generally. But this week, we're having her on specifically to talk about the Society's latest initiative, the One Night Live Multi-City Tour. We've covered this tour on previous episodes of this program. It's a really cool initiative. It helps support small venues. It helps support indie artists. The broad strokes of it are that Live Music Society is partnering with a couple nonprofit artist accelerators to take a group of indie artists on a small tour, all small local venues. So we're helping out the local venues. Each of the tour stops allows local artists to open for these artists, so we're helping support local artists in those areas. And we're working with these nonprofit artist accelerators to help support these tours, to help support the artists. Everybody wins. The artists win, the venues win, and most importantly, the fans win. We love it. And so I'm excited to talk to Kat Henry all about One Night Live, if for no other reason that I want to ask her, how do we scale this? I love this model. I think it has a lot of promise for indie creators. And so I want to see more of these. I want more than just one night in One Night Live. I want to see these happening all over the place. I want to see small venues and indie artists continue to flourish. And so we're going to be chatting with her all about that in the next segment. Joining us this week is our co-host. Boy, am I always happy when she's here. Katie Zaccardi is joining us. Hi, Katie.
Hi, Ryan.
You're always here when something good happens to me with sports, and I know you never know what to do with that.
No, but you know what? I do know that Florida's good at hockey, which is seems like it would be weird. So congrats to you. Unfortunately, the Nashville team was out so early this year because we were so bad. So I obviously checked out of that. But I'm proud of you, bud. You really did this. You really came through this year.
I know. It was really all me.
Yeah. It's literally all because of you.
Absolutely. The one Panthers game I went to this season put them over the top, despite the fact that the stadium is maybe 10 minutes from my house, and like all I could be bothered to go to was one game that my friend paid for the tickets for, by
You
the way.
have no
True
excuses.
fan. Oh my God. No, I'm the worst. Like, Canadians hate me. I don't know if you know this about the NHL, Katie, but Canada, like the sport that invented hockey,
Yeah.
has not won a Stanley Cup final in over 30 years. And it must make them so crazy when not only is the cup being won by Americans, but it's being won by Americans who live in states that it doesn't snow and don't actually care about hockey. And these people, they care so much, Katie. This means so much to them. And if my Panthers lost the Stanley Cup final, I'd be sad for maybe 24 hours. And that must make them so angry. And they have every right to be angry.
Yeah, but it feels like, I don't know, it's been so long, maybe they should figure out how to get better, you know?
Skill issue.
Like, they keep losing, it's kind of on them.
So, Katie, I know you're excited about this Cat Henry interview because I believe you were co-hosting the week that we talked about this One Night Live initiative. We were talking about how cool this is for artists, how it's such a great touring model, and how we just need to replicate this and scale it.
Yeah, I'm really excited to hear more about it. I just think, I mean, we've talked about this before on the podcast, but people are wanting to get back into gigs nowadays, but it is a challenge to figure out how to tour and how to tour sustainably. And you've got so many components to it. You've got the mental health piece, you've got the money piece, you've got the literally just booking it piece. So it's an area of the industry that I'm not as familiar with because touring specifically is not my expertise. But I think it's so fascinating and such a great way for artists to build their fan base and just perform more live music, which we all need more live music. So
We sure do. And you hit the nail right on the head there. Like, you laid out all of the challenges that indie artists are currently facing now when it comes to touring. There's a financial issue that there hasn't been as much as there is right now. There's a sustainability issue. There's a mental health issue. There's, there's a fact that like there's just not as many venues out there for indie artists to play at, and the venues are suffering too. And so I like the idea of Live Music Society, who's made it its mission to help these small venues to try to come up with a model that I think addresses all of those problems at the same time. And so excited to hear her talk about how that works in practice and the gains that they're having. That's going to be really cool. Speaking of helping artists, wanted to chat with you, Katie, about an article that I read recently in Hypebot. You know I love my listicles. Anybody who comes out with just 29 ways for artists to do something to make their careers better, I am going to just devour that. I love listicles so much. And Hypebot has a good one that they featured from CD Baby's Chris Robley that outlines 29 fast and affordable ways for artists to promote their music. And the article certainly does have lots of familiar tips like making a music video or updating your website and your bio to talk about your new music. I also appreciated that the article had some more off the beaten path pieces of advice as well. The article talks about using the instrumental stems of your music to create a karaoke version of your album that you can release for your fans, or even releasing the sheet music and chord charts to your music to help your fans get to know your music more intimately, perhaps the ones that know how to play music. Musicians can also create a series of emails for their fans talking about the behind-the-scenes experience of making the music, or even ask your fans to make a testimonial video about the song. Another piece of advice I thought was cool from the article that I think is something that you can do pretty easily on Spotify is create a playlist of artists and songs that helped influence your new music. So you can further not only help fans see your creative journey, but also shine the light on other artists that help make you the artist you are. Love that. And I know you had a chance to take a look at the article too, Katie, or did any of those tips light you up?
yeah, well, it's funny because number one, this list is both like up to date and also feels not outdated, but it's funny because it says like play on Twitter. And I'm like, Twitter,
Yeah.
host a Twitter listening party.
Yeah.
But
this list does, like, it's been out before and then they keep updating it.
yeah, they
but,
keep
you know.
updating it. Yeah, because then it mentions TikTok and whatnot. So some of the things on here are things that you like should be doing point blank period, like updating your Spotify and writing emails. Like that is some things that I would be like, that is the bare minimum in my opinion. But some of these things I think you can get really creative with, like release a karaoke version of it. I wouldn't have necessarily thought to do that, but I think it's such a good idea. And it even going a step further, I think of those duet me videos on TikTok. Like people will be like, duet me, you sing the melody, I'll sing the harmony. And so you could do that too, where
that's clever.
It's like you'll sing the harmony to your song and then you can let your fans sing the melody to it and then you can repost them. And it's a way to kind of get fans involved. And then also, it's no surprise that I like the like video TikTok ones, right? But the one it says, ask fans to share your music or record a testimonial video. I like that. I think that testimonials are great. You also don't want it to feel too forced. A couple areas or, ideas from this. I have seen like a friend of mine, Carolyn Miller, she released a song she actually has my dog Ziggy's brother. That's how we're friends. Well, that's not how we're friends, but that's the main way. But she released a song and it was like a song about, it was kind of like a father-daughter dance song. Like she wrote it like during her wedding. And she actually has a couple songs that are good for weddings. It's like first dance songs, stuff like that. And when she releases them or when she just goes to promote them, she will like repost people using it at their wedding. So first she's obviously encouraging them to do that. But then if people do it or they say they're going to do it, she will like share those videos or at least she'll talk about it. But I think if you can encourage your fans to share those videos and then you can repost those videos and you can show that people are actually loving your song IRL and like using it in those circumstances, that's super unique. And I had the other thing that I would do, going off of just getting fans involved, I was just talking about this with someone on my group coaching today because she was telling me that she was writing a song about her grandparents' love story. And I was like, I would do like a Harry Met Sally interview, like to promote the song. I would like interview older couples or something about their love story and like use it as promo. Or a lot of times, people will go like, those interviewers who like bring their little mics on the street and then they like ask people on the street questions.
Yes.
Like I would just do that.
You cannot escape those.
No.
That's 90% of the internet right now.
I love them. And let's say you did a song about like getting cheated on. Like I would like go on the street. If I was in Nashville, I would like go to Broadway, get on the street with my little mic and be like, have you ever been cheated on? Tell me the story. And then just like keep doing that over and over and over again. So that's obviously playing off some of the ideas here, but I think there's a lot of good stuff to work with on this list. And if you do what I just did and let it like spark new stuff, you could probably come up with 29 more ideas from that.
Absolutely. I think some of the best ideas are when you take what you already have and build off it. So you're not reinventing the wheel, right? Taking the song that you've already made and telling people, post videos of you using this song in your wedding or something like that, right?
Yeah.
The more that you can use the stuff that you already have and build off it rather than just try to create completely new stuff is going to make your life a lot easier. And some of my favorite examples of artists promoting their music in innovative ways involve artists sort of just taking something that they've already did and putting a twist on it. Yeah. And maybe using it as a way to highlight an aspect of your work that might have flown under the radar, but is nonetheless quite important. I remember, gosh, this must have been years ago that we talked about this, Katie, but there's an artist and his name is Nobody Likes You, Pat, which is a silly name because everybody likes this guy because his music is wonderful. But he had a song called Things I Wish You Said, and it's still one of my all-time favorite songs. Whenever I hear it, it's just so powerful. And the chorus in that song is really cool and emotional. And one of the things that he did to promote the song, that's like, one of my favorite like TikTok things ever that I've seen somebody do, is in the chorus, he sings this really, 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 really high note.
I remember this.
That if you're just listening to the album, if you're just listening to the song, you can barely hear it, right? If you don't know it's there, you're going to miss it, but it accents the chorus really well. So he made a TikTok video of him recording that So you could actually hear him record it. And it's hilarious because like it's a ridiculously high note. Like I can't sing it. I'm not sure you could sing it, Katie. It is so high. But, seeing him sing it in the studio and like, singing it very, very loudly, even though it's very quiet on the recording. But it's a great way to promote the song because that video went viral because everybody's like, look at that crazy high note he just hit. And it turned a whole bunch of people to that song that wouldn't have otherwise gotten to it. And so that was a really simple way to promote his song. And all he did was just take something that was already there, that ridiculously high note that was way in the background of the track, and put it front and center and made it a way to promote his song. Clever and easy.
It's so funny you bring that up. I remember that, and it really was like 2 years ago. That's crazy. But yeah, taking behind the scenes footage like that while you're creating is also going to come in handy because then you absolutely can go back and use that. I remember that one of my clients, she posted a video once of her rehearsing to perform one of her songs live. And in the rehearsal room, it was like her and two dancers, and she like bent down and like all their knees cracked. Like they all like go into a squat, like they're dancing, they're going to a squat, and like all their knees cracked. And she has made a video of it probably like 2 or 3 times. It's gone viral every time because like, whatever she does for the hook, where it's just like, rehearsing for my new song, but we're like 30. It's like something like that. And it's so funny. It literally goes viral every time. And so it's very silly. You never know what the smallest thing can be that can just help boost it. Like, obviously not suggesting you make your whole album campaign or single campaign around your knees cracking or one high note, but a video like that can get people's attention and bring them back to the other juicy stuff that you're actually posting about, aka the song. So
yeah, I love that stuff. And I think that's the lesson, right? Is don't feel like you have to reinvent the wheel. Use the stuff that you already have and use the music promotion mechanism as an opportunity to perhaps shine the light on some aspects of yourself and your work that might not already be in the forefront in your release. And the results can be pretty spectacular. I love that one. Oh, the other one that I was thinking of that we talked about on this show is the band Walk Off the Earth. So I think I covered this with you. They had a song called "My Stupid Heart." This is a great band, right? They do a lot of stuff on YouTube and TikTok. Is this with
their kid?
Yes.
Yes.
So they released a song called "My Stupid Heart," and it's a great song, cool little poppy song. But the thing that they did to promote it was they had their kid. How old must he have been? Like 4 or 5 years old at the time. And
in my head, he was like 8, but you probably know better than me.
He was so little.
Yeah.
Producer Lauren, if you want to see if you can just like, don't play it on the air, but like, see if you can find the TikTok video of "My Stupid Heart" of the little kid singing it, and just tell us how old that kid was. He couldn't have been older than 5. He was just a baby. But they had him sing the song instead of the parents, and it doesn't hurt that the kid was incredibly talented,
super cute and super talented.
So cute.
And
I think when all was said and done, the video of the kids singing the song got more views than the actual song.
Oh, I'm sure.
Because but right, that's another cool way to promote the song. And shining the light on your family, and again, using the stuff you have at your disposal. And God, I'm gonna go back and listen to that song.
I know.
It makes me
and
so
while
happy.
we wait for
6.
6. There you go. So sort of in between our two things.
Cute.
In my head, he was 2, which makes it all the more incredible.
Yeah, he definitely was not 2.
He was. I mean, it was amazing. A 6-month-old kid singing that song in perfect pitch. It was just wild. Just came out of the womb singing that song in my head.
6 months of age. Can you believe it?
Unbelieve it. I mean,
they were his
what a prodigy.
His first words were the song, and he was dancing.
Oh my God, he was
I will
so
say,
cute.
Before we wrap this conversation, I have one more thing to add, which is I think that musicians are also sleeping on podcasts. And that's on this list. It says pitch your music to your favorite music podcast. I think, once again, you can go beyond this. Because I think that what I teach my clients to do is like, what is your song about? If your song is about mental health, okay, what are mental health podcasts? Even if your song is about like having fun and like being in your 20s, okay, we can work with that. We can work with that. Let's say your song is about grief. Okay, what are some like podcasts about grief or dealing with death or something like that? You can pitch yourself to those podcasts and have conversations that like don't have to do with your music necessarily. The conversation at large will be more about the topics at hand, but then you can either play or pitch your song as part of it or just plug your song during that interview. But because you're talking on podcasts that relate to the song's theme and most likely therefore your brand's theme, you're reaching audiences of people who want more art about that thing and want to be talking about that thing. And guess what? That's what you're doing in your music and hopefully on your platform. So I am like a huge proponent of doing that. And I think it's really slept on because not a lot of musicians know how to do it or think to do it. Obviously, I can teach you if you need help, but I'm huge into that. And it's pretty easy to get on a podcast.
That's such a good idea, Katie, because I can speak to this as a podcaster, who has to put on a new show every week. And, sometimes the content is flowing and there's plenty of stuff to talk about. And other weeks it's like, oh my God, I have a podcast in an hour. What the hell are we going to talk about? And the guardian angel for a podcaster in that situation is when somebody comes to you with a whole content in a box ready to go. And so when you make a pitch to a podcast about grief and you tell them, look, I have this song, here are the things that I can talk about, inspired by the song, here's the conversation we can have. And as a podcaster, I know if I have you on the show, you are going to solve my content problem and I don't have to think about it. Oh, you were getting to the front of the line. Of course you're going to get on the show. And so you're doing these podcasters a favor. So that is a great, great idea, Katie.
Yeah. And if you have a strong pitch, you really only need to write one template email. And then of course you're going to want to like adjust it when you email people to personalize it. But the core topics more or less stay the same. So it's like you write the email once and then you can just send it slightly personalized to a bunch of the podcasts that fit under that theme. And I guarantee it's good. And you can go for the smaller guys too. It's like you don't have to get on the giant podcast, but each small podcast has its own small audience and it'll get you out, it'll get you talking, and it'll help you grow your audience. So I'm a big fan of it.
I am too. I like that a lot. Before we go to break, Katie, I want to answer a listener question that I thought was a pretty interesting one. Getting into the copyright weeds here, but I think it's a pretty fascinating question because I think it's going to bring the Gen Zers back to a world that was a little less digital. So the question is, hey, Ryan, I released a CD of music with a few original songs back in 2008. Yes, when dinosaurs roamed the earth. The CD's out of print now, so it was a CD, and I never registered the songs with the Copyright Office. I want to register the copyrights now, but I don't have the original released CD anymore. But I still have the MP3 files of the songs. Can I use those to register the songs now, or am I out of luck? I know I need to deposit copies of the music when I file my copyright application. Oh, I love this question for a great many reasons, Katie. First of which, I love that when any artist like comes to me and says, I know registering a copyright is important, can you help me? There's a special place in heaven for you. Thank you for knowing that registering copyrights is important and understanding the very important thing that it's never too late to register that copyright. Obviously, it's better to register early, preferably before you publish or at least within 3 months of publishing your work, but better late than never, absolutely. And so even if you released the music a long time ago, there's still some advantages to registering that copyright. So don't feel like, oh, just because my music is 15 years old or more, that there's no value in me registering. There absolutely is. However, if your music is so old that you released a physical version of your music, such as a CD, alongside the digital release of your music, a special challenge can emerge if you're trying to register your music a lot later and now the CDs no longer exist. This happens a lot more often than people might think, Katie. I've had at least 2 or 3 clients that have run into this where they released a song on CD or vinyl alongside the digital version. And now the CDs are out of print because they stopped making them. And when I tell them, hey, you need to find a couple copies of that CD in the original packaging and liner notes to send to the copyright office, they go, I don't have those anymore.
Yeah.
That was 3 apartments ago. I mean, they're all gone now. This happens a lot. And so here's the problem for artists like this is when you release an album originally in a physical version, you have to submit what's called the best edition of that work. And if it's a physical version that you release, such as a CD, you need to submit 2 copies of that CD in its original packaging with the liner notes and everything as part of your copyright application. And so if it's years later and you don't have those CDs anymore, what do you do? And the answer to this letter writer's question, assuming I have all the facts here, is you need to basically come clean to the Copyright Office and say, look, Copyright Office, I did release this as a CD back in 2008, but those CDs are gone. They are off into the wind. I don't have copies anymore. And you need to apply for what's called special relief. So this is a special procedure with the Copyright Office. You can either usually put it right in the copyright application, or you can email the copyright examiner that is examining your copyright registration and let them know what's going on. If you explain the situation to them and you specifically say, I want special relief, and explain, kind of what happened, which is that, years have passed and the CDs are gone, they'll usually allow you to submit just the MP3 files instead of the CD. But you got to make sure you follow that special relief procedure. But as long as you do that, the Copyright Office can be pretty chill about it, and you can still get your copyright registered even if the original CDs are gone. So fear not, letter writer, and best of luck with your copyright registration.
I have a question. Okay. Why
Just
can't
one?
you just, yeah. Well, yeah. Why can't you just submit the MP3s and pretend that the CDs never existed?
A perfectly fair question. So a few things happen here, Katie. When you fill out an application for copyright registration for a sound recording, for example, one of the questions they're going to ask you was, when you originally released this, did you release it in a physical version?
And you obviously have to say yes.
Right. Unless you think that lying to the federal government's a good idea.
Typically not, but
Yeah. If you say no, and you're being honest, of course,
Yeah.
because as many artists do, because not a lot of artists release a physical version anymore.
Exactly. Right.
If you say no, then the best edition of the work that you have to submit is the digital one, and you just upload the MP3s and you're home free. But if the answer is yes, because you put out a CD in 2008, then they're going to say, we need that CD and we need 2 copies of it. And if your CDs are long out of print, you might be in trouble unless you do this special relief procedure. So the answer to your question is, unless you want to lie to the federal government, which I would never, ever recommend, you're going to have to tell them that you originally released it as a physical version and then do this special relief procedure.
Copy that, or should I say copyright that?
I knew you were going to do that. You telegraphed that so much, Katie Zaccardi. But that's why we like you. And I'll just quickly mention this on the end, on the back end here, for those of you who are saying, well, why do I register a copyright? Why does that even matter? And let's just do the 60-second version of it, which is, you don't need to register a copyright to have a copyright. From the moment you create a work, whether you record it in a recording studio or write something down on a piece of paper, the copyright exists. The reason why you register your copyright with the federal government is it gives you all kinds of very important legal benefits, such as being able to get attorney fees if you have to sue somebody for copyright infringement, or getting statutory damages if somebody steals your work and you register it before they steal their work. And these things are very, very important in actually being able to protect your work if somebody steals it. So it's always, always, always good to register your copyrights, even if it's a little bit more work because you released it in 2008 and in a CD version. Still, you're better off doing it because those legal advantages are important. All right. Thank you for indulging me in that little federal copyright adventure. But the adventures continue here on Break the Business. Let us take a quick break. We're going to be joined by our friend Kat Henry of Live Music Society. Don't go anywhere. Keep checking out Break the Business. Break the Business is presented in cooperation with Ryan Kairalla, PA. Ryan Kairalla, PA is a law firm providing transactional entertainment legal services, including contracts, business formation, commercial law, copyright, trademark, and more. Ryan Kairalla, PA, Miami, Florida. rkpalaw.com.
Streaming services for Break the Business provided by LEK Entertainment. LEK Entertainment is a full-service entertainment company offering everything from consultations to full-scale events and productions, including audio and video productions, voiceovers, staged theatrical productions, script and music development, and streaming services. For more information, visit lekentertainment.com. LEK Entertainment wants to help you bring your story to life.
Thanks for supporting Break the Business. If you have a question or topic that you want us to discuss, email us at breakthebusiness@gmail.com. You can follow the host, that's me, on Twitter at Ryan Kair, and you can follow the show at the BTB Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the show on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook, and on all major podcast platforms. And now, let's get back to the show. Welcome back to Break the Business, everybody. Ryan Kairalla here with Katie Zaccardi. We're having a great time. I just saw online, I think the Oilers are just ahead of the Dallas Stars. We might have an Oilers-Panthers rematch in the Stanley Cup final. And I feel like, frankly, I'm not sure who the people would root for in a contest like that, Katie, because on one hand, I think a lot of people might be rooting for Connor McDavid of the Oilers because he's like this really popular guy who's like a really great player and people want to see him win his first Stanley Cup final. But on the other hand, there's like this very anti-Canada sentiment going around right now. And so I think a lot of Americans might just want to root for America here. An anti-Canada sentiment, which, by the way, we do not endorse here at Break the Business. We love our Canadians. We've had a few wonderful Canadians on the program recently who have greatly enriched it, but still want this Florida team to win, of course.
Whoever, I want to win this, whoever is going to be easier for Florida to beat. How about that?
Well, that's probably going to be Dallas, but it looks like it might be Edmonton. I would love, by the way, Katie, if we had a Dallas-Florida Stanley Cup final because
that'd be very cool.
Elisa Rockdock lives in Dallas, and I would love an excuse to sort of bounce between those two cities and watch some hockey with Evan and Elisa. That'd be a blast. Anywho, let us get back on a topic here. I'm derailing us. Let's bring out our guest this week.
She's got the rhythm, she's got the drive. Helping indie dreams come alive. Cat Henry's here with a heart so true. Paving the way for the music crew. Oh, Cat Henry, light the way for the indie voices to have their say. On every stage and every town, lifting the music, never backing down.
Our guest this week is the Executive Director of Live Music Society, a nonprofit that supports a network of small performance venues through grant programs. Recently, Live Music Society partnered with nonprofits Detour and Salt Lick Incubator on One Night Live, a 3-week tour from May to June that features indie artists performing at a network of small independent venues. You can find out more about our guest's work by visiting livemusicsociety.org. We are happy to welcome back Cat Henry on To Break the Business. Hi, Cat.
Hey, Ryan. Hey, Katie. Nice to meet you, Katie. I feel pretty special after that intro. That is quite the guest intro you have there.
Oh, we aim to please. We always want to make our guests feel welcome, especially a guest that we think as highly of as you, Kat. I want to talk to you all about One Night Live and have you kind of get us back up to date on what's going on with Live Music Society and everything. But if you don't mind, I'd like to start by bringing you in on the discussion we were having in the first segment about just cool ways that artists have promoted music. And I'm wondering, in all of your experience with all the artists you've come across, Do you have a really cool example of an artist who promoted their music in a really innovative way?
It's funny because you were talking about podcasts and shifting to a related topic, right, Katie, that is
Hmm.
connected to your music. And I see people getting into the kind of the music history and doing YouTube series that are related to music, but it's a deep dive into something that they are an expert in. And that is an interesting way for them to use their music behind the YouTube video, but also have a practical application. I've seen a couple of artists do that, which I've really appreciated. It is a certain skill set, right? There's a certain skill set to get your viral moment, to be in front of the camera like that. But that's one of the ways that I've seen artists, just build up the videos for Patreon, and building up their artist and their relationship with other people. It's not talking about their music, talking about something completely different.
Absolutely. Something that allows fans to get a more complete picture of that artist. And the more that artists can collaborate too, that's always neat. All right. For the uninitiated, for the folks who perhaps weren't around when we had John about a year and a half ago, can you tell us about Live Music Society and its mission?
Yes, absolutely. Love to. Our mission is to preserve, protect, support, empower small music venues in the service of live music. We've been around since the beginning of the pandemic. We were actually founded right before lockdown. And of course, at first we did emergency funding through our foundation. And then when I spoke to you last time, we were just finessing and refining a new kind of grant, and that's what we've been focusing on. So we've dispersed 4 million in the last 5 years. We're going to do another
Woo!
million this year, and we've got 180 venues that we now have great relationships with, who have been funded and empowered in one way or another. And then next month, we'll be announcing another group of our Music in Action grantees, which will take us over 200. So that's exciting. The Music in Action grant is our main grant, up to 50,000. And then in the fall, we run a toolbox grant that is more practical things that will improve the experience for people who actually come into your venue.
I can't think of anybody who has a more cool, more fulfilling job in the music industry than you do. Your job is literally just to go to a bunch of small venues, something that everybody loves who doesn't love small venues, and just give them money. I mean, what a dream.
I know. Well, it's a great pleasure to be able to, alert somebody that they are an awardee. Unfortunately, there's just as many who the jury didn't select. This is an independent jury that selects. And we actually, over the last we've just done our third round of Music in Action, and we're nudging up the percentage of applicants that do get funding. That's something I've been really happy to see. There's always going to be people that kind of don't make it. I wish I had a lot more money. There's so many worthy projects. But we can't fund everyone, so it's good and bad. It's my happiest day and my saddest day of the year is letting people know whether they've gotten a grant, and that was something which led to One Night Live, because we wanted to think about how we can support venues outside of that grant program who may not be awardees.
Oh, I'm interested in talking to you more about One Night Live. We've covered it on the show before and are just in love with the concept because it seems like it just helps so many worthy constituencies at the same time, right? You're helping take these artists on tour, but you're also supporting local artists who get to open for those artists. And you're also supporting these small venues, and you're working with these accelerator partnerships to bring it all together. It's a win-win-win-win, and I love this. I love what it represents, and I want to see this scale and expand. So, I mean, but you'll do a better job of explaining it than I will. What is One Night Live all about?
What is One Night Live? Well, as I said, we've shifted. We're going to continue our grant programs. We've shifted into other ways that we can make an impact, and I saw an opportunity to build on the relationships that I've begun making within the music industry and within the music advocacy industry in live music. And so, I began learning about other organizations, like-minded organizations that are working to improve the live music ecosystem. And as I've gotten to know them, thinking about, okay, well, we're all working on our own really valid things, but how could we work together? You want to go fast, go alone. You want to go far, go together, right? That's what they always say. So I had met the folks from Salt Lake Incubator at a music conference and was really impressed with what they do. I gradually got to know the founders of Detour. So, but I'll back up a little bit because primarily One Night Live is a tour. It's a tour. It's actually, they're on the road right now. They're in Jackson, Mississippi tonight, and probably just came off stage. I've got to check in with them, see how they're doing. At a great place called Hal and Mal's. The tour finishes on Sunday. They'll go to Birmingham, Alabama tomorrow, and it finishes on Sunday in Nashville at Dark Matter. Please be there. Yeah, East Nashville strong. And it actually began in Miami, and we played three Florida venues. So the tour consists of rising artists. They're each individual singer-songwriters. I'm going to shout them out because I want them to get the credit and to get the awareness of their work. Check out Ellie Williams is the first, Farai Malek, and Sofia Lafuente, who's actually based in Miami. They're all three very different, and they have their own bands, but for the sake of economics, and we're beta testing this one model. We want to beta test a bunch of different models, but we're learning as we go. For this, to the economics of three bands traveling wasn't going to really work. So we approached them with the idea that each of them would play their own songs, have their own set of their music, and then they would act as backing musicians as each one took the fore. And it was an interesting concept, but it's worked brilliantly. And so they're out on the road. The most important thing, other than the experience that the artists have, is that it is the collaboration between us, Live Music Society, and two really incredible other organizations. Just quickly, you call them Accelerator, Salt Lake Incubator. They support independent artists to try and help them build sustainable careers. And then Detour is a collective of nationally located venues, promoters who are really keyed in to nurturing that relationship between indie venues and indie artists to route tours, to be able to go to agents and say, we've got the tour routed across multiple markets, let's talk. And it's important for them to have, a way to compete with what is becoming, as we know, a more corporate way of routing and corporately owned venues. So they're kind of matching up what they're doing with, the opportunity to get more artists out on the road. So that's in a nutshell what One Night Live is.
Right. And so everything about this, shows a great deal of promise, because it does seem to go a long way in solving a lot of the problems that indie artists and small venues are currently having in trying to make tours happen, right?
Yeah,
it's not economical to go out on tour, especially if you're trying to take a full band. You often don't get the support and logistical help that you need. But One Night Live is helping take care of a lot of those things. So what are the plans to scale this? Because I'd like to see a model like this proliferate, whether it's you all doing it or, other organizations kind of borrowing from this model and seeing that it works and doing it themselves. What's the plan to have, 100 of these going on at once?
I know. Wouldn't that be fantastic? Well, ultimately, that is our goal. Totally our goal. It will probably take more funding partners, more incubators, but we're already planning more tours this year. And we're doing the 3 tours that we're going to do in slightly different ways. This one, I don't have to tell you how prohibitive it is to be out there touring. And touring isn't for everyone. There's people, as you've said, through your podcast and the tips and the creator economy, who don't maybe want to tour.
Sure.
But the reality, and you wrote the book, right? You wrote the book on the recording companies and their hold on the way music is done and toured, and that with that freedom comes with the freedom again, of doing being an entrepreneur as a musician. Um, what was lost is that support, that cash flow, that marketing, that publicity, that team that's behind an artist. And I think this is where the music incubators, the accelerators are filling that void. I mean, it's great if you have a viral moment. It's great if you have a bunch of other skills and you can do graphic designing, you can do all these different things. It's a lot for creator to do. Or if you don't get a coveted spot on a bigger tour, and touring itself is actually reducing. Chartmetric literally just a week ago released a report that was talking about how some artists are really rethinking touring completely. We've all heard of tours that have been cancelled. So what we want to do is we want to test this model that we have now with the incubator supporting the artists. They selected the artists, in fact. Detour is leveraging our list of venues, their relationships to book and route the tour and make sure it's routed really well. They're not driving more than 6 hours between gigs, and that's an art right there. And then we're supporting Detour because we believe in their mission. We're coming to the table with some funding for the venues. That's kind of a stopgap. It's kind of a mini grant, because we know that with emerging artists, they don't have hard ticket numbers, right? The experiment that we tried this time, and it's worked in some places, but to be completely candid, it fell flat in a couple of others. And although the audiences haven't been enormous, they've been extremely enthusiastic. And in some instances, they were partnered with a pretty popular local artist, and that audience was brought into the venue and they got a chance. And then some venues decided not to partner them at all. We have the venues are mostly 100 cap, 150 cap. And sometimes they were just the headliner. And what's been so gratifying to me, aside from knowing that they're not going to lose money on this tour, that the venues aren't going to, be in jeopardy from doing this, is just watching how they've developed. When we did the preview concert in Concord, Massachusetts, at this great place called Umbrella Arts. And honestly, the artists, they were a little nervous. There was some tension, and to be in front of a full audience like that. And I caught up with them on gig 6 at Songbird Music House in Washington, D.C., one of my favorite venues in the world. And I tell you, the banter, the playfulness, the jokes, the stage presence, the confidence, it was all there, even though they had a technical hitch in the middle of the set. And I was like, this is what they're getting from this. They're getting that comfort on stage to be able to really stretch themselves and try new music too. So that's been something that's been really wonderful. We want to do more. We want to do more. We want to experiment with the different models, maybe work with agents, with artists who they're planning to tour, so that we can add incubator artists to a larger tour, or to begin building a roster ourselves alongside the incubators. So there's lots of different directions we can go. We're gathering information from all of the 14 venues on this tour. What went well, what you didn't like, would you do it again? Is the funding enough? How do you recommend we move forward with this? And we've always tried to listen to venue owners and understand what they need and what they want and what they can share. So data collection is the name of the game for this one, and it will influence how we plan the next one. And I can tell you about the next one as well.
So you mentioned promoting this and being able to have the artists have a support system to help them do that. And you also kind of briefly said, some gigs have been more crowded than others. I don't have numbers to back this up, but I feel like pre-pandemic, we were already sort of losing some of the built-in crowds that you might have seen in music venues at the past. And then now definitely post 2020, I don't know a whole lot of people who are just going to music venues and sitting at them just to see what's up.
Yeah, see who's playing tonight.
See who's playing. Like, you kind of used to have that culture, and it's been dying out in the last decade or so. So how does the promotion for this type of tour work? Are the artists primarily doing it? Are you guys helping them? And what are you finding works well, or maybe is a challenge that you're dealing with in terms of getting people out to gigs? Because especially with touring, I find a lot of artists think it's so great to go on tour, and then they quickly realize, oh wait, I don't have more than a handful of people in some of these smaller random cities. Like, I might have a big fan base where I'm from and in a couple other large cities, but when you start to go to 14 cities, maybe the numbers aren't there. So how do you deal with something like that?
Well, the promotion has been multifaceted, multi-layered, and we learned. Obviously, we've done some promotion for the project itself, just the fact, the concept. We want to raise awareness so that we can get other people to do this with us. There's amazing incubators all over the country. I hope to begin to partner with them and continue working with Salt Lick. Salt Lick has a built-in content creation team because that's part of what they help the artists with. They do writing camps, artist collabs. They help with recordings. They have a grant program themselves to allow artists to make their first music video or to do a Salt Lick session, get on the radio. So they're helping get that information out there. And so because they were nurturing that in all three artists, they were already up to a certain level of savvy promotional expertise. And some of the, Ellie has literally millions of streams on Spotify, but no, she's not sure who's in Miami or who's in Chicago. When she was in Chicago, she knew we would be able to use those numbers. It's like, that's where your fans are. And that's why we can direct. Sophia's from Miami, right? So she immediately knew. She'd never played Gramps, actually. I don't know whether you know Gramps in Wynwood. That was the great venue that we started the tour in. But she leveraged everything she could and then was able to promote her fellow musicians, to give them some shine from the people who were coming to see her. I've been massively impressed by what they've done. I'm not a TikToker. We don't. Live Music Society doesn't have a TikTok, but of course that's their crowd. So they've been posting themselves. We've done IG reels. They'll take them and they'll put them on TikTok. And it's a fact of life when you're an emerging artist. And for at least two of the artists, this is their very first tour. They never toured before, and that sometimes you are playing to 15 people. That is the nature. And then sometimes there's 60, 100 in the house. That's one of the lessons that you learn, that it's still the same set. You're still connecting with people. So we are lucky as a nonprofit to have a publicist arm. We have resources that individual artists don't get to utilize, but they bring something very unique. We're not doing the TikTok. They don't have a publicist. So, we're bringing everything together to make sure that we're raising awareness and having them learn these skills that you were talking about, on the first half of the show. Those are real skills. And the incubators are all about business acumen, the way that you can market your music, because you just got to get it out there, right? You need more people to hear it. And this is just one way.
I love that this initiative seems to be about more than just let's put artists on tour. You're trying to help move these artists forward and, make a real spiritual investment in their future success. And, that's so admirable. I love that. Now, in your prior answer, Kat, you had said something about something happening next that I believe you wanted to share with us. So let's
it's
backtrack
not
to that.
announced, but I think it's solid. It's solid enough that it would be really great. Like Farai, Sophia, and Ellie have been amazing. They are going to be very successful. I am going to be saying we toured them back then, because they are all on the verge of massive success. And I'm so thrilled that they're ready for it. They have all of the tools and pieces that they need to take that next step forward. record deals, agents, managers, like they're off and running after this, and they've got the experience. In the meantime, we're working with Salt Lick to select and figure out another group of artists. It might be a band, it might not be in that same model. We may mix up the way that we support the venues and support the artists. Salt Lick is coming to the table with transportation money, with all of the you're talking about mental health, right? We have two of the artists who identify as LGBTQ, non-binary. We want to make sure that in a growing climate of hostility, they are taken care of. They know wherever they go in the country, they're going to be supported and cool. So that's one of the other things that Salt Lake is really, really concerned about. And nothing has happened, but the fact that they know they can pick up the phone and reach somebody has been really important. So we'll be working with Salt Lake on a fall tour, but we're also now bringing into the fold an incubator called Cleveland Rocks. Cleveland Rocks has been going for a really long time. They have a program that already helps artists, but we're going to work with them to launch a new program that they are literally calling the Accelerator. And it's going to connect Greater Cleveland music artists with resources necessary for success. And the artist that we're going to be working with initially is Jenna Fournier. She has a shoegaze band called Knights. She's also known as Kid Tiger. She has developed a great relationship with Billy Corgan from Smashing Pumpkins. And she was the first person to release an album on his own label other than his music and Smashing Pumpkins music. So she just released that album. She's got a great following in the Midwest, right? She's built her audience. She wants to go beyond that. And she's at the point in her career where she can do that. So that's the next challenge for us, is to find out where her fans are and to find out what we pair her with and how we get her on the road. And like I said, we're surveying people. We'd love to get more sponsors in. We'll be looking for fundraising, because not every artist incubator has funds, right? There's some that are funded more than others. But there's a couple that I know that I really love, and maybe you know others too. Midtopia out of Wichita is doing amazing stuff.
It's funny you mentioned that, Kat, because while you were talking, all I was saying to myself is, once this interview is over, I'm going to talk to Kat and see if they know the folks over at Midtopia, because I bet those groups would really connect well together. They're based out in Wichita. They do a lot of nonprofit work with artists too.
Amazing work. And they're also members of Detour. So it's different layers of, and then one I am particularly fond of, who I think is doing great work, is Key Change US, based out in California. But there's also workforce development programs. The goal ultimately 5 years from now is to have more organizations connected with each other. For example, if we bring a Salt Lake artist into Detroit, there's already advocates in Detroit. There's been music cities surveys to kind of figure out who's supporting music in different cities. And this might be a chance for us to bring everybody together. One night live can mean many things to many different people. For the audience, it's if you haven't gone out this year, as Katie said, if you haven't been out, one night live, please. Just give us one night. And then for the artists, is that idea that they get this chance to develop their craft one night in front of lots of different spaces. But for music advocates, people in the industry, it's also a chance for us to bring people together in these various places across the country. So I look forward to seeing how we can grow it into 2026, how we can do more of these, adjusting as we go. But yeah, more is the goal.
No objection here. Our guest has been Kat Henry, the Executive Director at Live Music Society. Find out more about our guest work by going to livemusicsociety.org. Kat, this has been awesome. I am So invigorated from this conversation. I'm so proud of what your organization has already done with One Night Live, but I'm equally excited to see what lies ahead. Before we let you go, we got one last question for you.
Yeah.
Do you have any last tips for the indie creators out there to help them move their careers forward?
I mean, just, it can be very demoralizing. Just keep at it. Do whatever you can to keep your center, to understand that what you have is special, right? And sometimes it's not about making money. I know a lot of musicians. I've worked with a lot of musicians, and they're teaching, they're doing day job, whatever you need to do to make sure that you can have that core that's really expressing what you were put on the earth to do. It's hard to learn all the skills. It is hard. I would say keep looking for grant programs, keep looking for incubator podcasts like this are treasure. Great tips, concrete tips, and there's a bunch out there which I'm really pleased about. But yeah, I guess just don't give up. Don't give up hope, and understand that you're really special.
Love that. Our thanks to Kat Henry and Katie Zaccardi. Our thanks to producer Lauren, and thanks to all of you viewers and listeners for checking out Break the Business. We'll see you next week.